No, we all have busy lives, and President Trump has a busy life, and I don't think he realizes how much she's humiliated the administration. This is a self-inflicted wound. She caused it. Again, I have nothing against Pam Bondi, but if you want to look for the villain in this story, we have found her. She is the person she's either lying now or she was lying then. There's no two ways about it.
Charlie Kirk y Megyn Kelly están haciendo exactamente lo que se le espera de ellos. Bueno, para lo que fueron contratados. Defender a Trump. Mientras la Casa Blanca está tambaleándose por el escándalo de Jeffrey Epstein, hemos visto cómo estos dos personajes están muy ocupados intentando desviar la atención y culpar a cualquiera, menos a su líder supremo. Obviamente, señores, eso no es casualidad. Ya salieron los famosos talking points oficiales en este universo MAGA. Y según ellos, el verdadero culpable aquí no había sido Trump, sino que es su fiscal general, Pam Bondi. A ver, amigos, vamos a ser muy claros en este tema. Obviamente Pam Bondi no es la que manda aquí. Quien quiera llegar al fondo del caso Epstein no puede engañarse, ¿no? Creyendo que es ella la villana principal en esta historia. Porque Pam Bondi es simplemente un títere más. Hace lo que Trump ordena. No tiene esa autonomía, ¿no? Y si hay información que se está ocultando, es porque Trump lo decidió así. Así que, si hoy estás culpando a Pam Bondi, no te interesa la verdad sobre Jeffrey Epstein. Lo único que te interesa es proteger a Trump. Y eso, señores, es exactamente lo que dijo el muy conocido youtuber y periodista independiente Brian Tyler Cohen en vivo durante una entrevista con Piers Morgan. Escuchemos.
Dan Bongino and Kash Patel focus so much energy, so many resources, so much time on this exact issue, only for them to come out and say, "Oh, well, there's absolutely nothing here." But I would also caution, Natalie, to not put the onus, because I've been seeing this more and more on the right, to not put all of the responsibility on Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is an appendage of Donald Trump. She is not calling the shots. Nobody in this administration is calling the shots. This entire cabinet, this entire White House exists to serve Donald Trump. They exist to basically be extensions of Trump himself, and no one will ever act independently of him. And so if accountability is really what you're looking for here, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that this is all being done in good faith, then let's not delude ourselves into thinking that Pam Bondi is the final word or that the buck stops with her when the buck always stops with Donald Trump.
Presten mucha atención en quienes señalan los defensores de Trump. Si culpan a Pam Bondi, es porque lógicamente están encubriendo a Donald Trump. Es así de simple, señores. Pero Charlie Kirk fue mucho más lejos, ¿no? Él dijo que Pam Bondi humilló a estos influencers, como si ellos no tuviesen una voluntad propia, como si no supieran lo que estaban haciendo. Ahora bien, amigos, ¿saben ustedes dónde vi este clip? Del propio tweet de Charlie Kirk, donde de paso él escribió lo siguiente: los archivos de Epstein, fase 1 ya comenzó. Ahí, señores, es donde entra la verdadera razón del pánico, ¿no? Quieren culpar a alguien más, porque saben que los agarraron mintiendo. Pero aquí es donde no tenemos que olvidarnos. Ninguno de ellos es un niño. Son adultos responsables. O sea, nadie los obligó a salir sonriendo frente a las cámaras, a agitar unas carpetas falsas, ¿no? O ir a publicar en X.
No, we all have busy lives, and President Trump has a busy life, and I don't think he realizes how much she's humiliated the administration. This is a self-inflicted wound. She caused it. Again, I have nothing against Pam Bondi, but if you want to look for the villain in this story, we have found her. She is the person she's either lying now or she was lying then. There's no two ways about it.
So, but Megyn, you make a very astute point, and let me add to it, which is that she also brought in some of our best influencers, people that I care about deeply. Jack Posobiec, who's incredible, Libs of TikTok, Chaya, DC Drano.
Yeah.
And she gave them these binders, and she humiliated them.
Yeah.
And you guys know what I'm talking about? Where she like did this stuff with
You
the
remember this?
binders? And you
Yes.
guys were upset, but you shouldn't be upset, the influencers. They were handed these binders like there was something incredible in
It
them.
is what you would do to an enemy. It would have been a brilliant operation had she loathed them and been looking to undermine them. The trick would have been perfect had this been Joe Biden's White House doing this to some of President Trump's most loyal supporters and media advocates. What happened was they invited all of them there to say hi to the vice president, to say hi to the president. Sure, they all went, of course. Who wouldn't go? To the White House to say hello to Trump? They didn't expect anything on Epstein. So they went, they said hello, and before they knew it, they were pulled into a room with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and she had made the binders. She bragged about making the cover sheet that read Epstein Files, Phase 1, and she handed them out. And what Liz Wheeler, who was there, told me was that she told them, there's not that much in here, but like another trove is coming. I'm going to get it from the FBI, but like, here's Phase 1. Flash forward 14 hours earlier to when she was on with Jesse Waters on Fox News saying, oh, you're going to see some Epstein documents tomorrow. She knew they were bullshit. She knew that there was nothing in there. She told the influencers when she gave it to them, there's really nothing in here. I'm going to try to get you more. And in the meantime, then they funneled them out the back of the White House where all the press corps was. And the influencers are standing there with these binders. They didn't even know they were there for Epstein, and they looked foolish through no fault of their own. The only fault was they trusted her.
And these are some of our best people that we should have their back. Liz Wheeler's amazing, Jack Posobiec.
Yes.
And they got...
She dinged their credibility for no reason.
100%. And
Sin duda, Pam Bondi no los obligó, ¿no? Pero ahí están. Vimos a Jack Posobiec, vimos a Lips of TikTok, a Charlie Kirk, todos participando, ¿no? activamente en una mentira colectiva. Y ahora, señores, que los desenmascararon, salen a hacerse las víctimas. Pero recuerden, no lo son. Si quieren usar la lógica, bueno, pues apliquemos la lógica. Yo les pregunto, ¿qué creen ustedes que ganaría Pam Bondi cubriendo esta lista de Jeffrey Epstein? Ahora pensemos, ¿qué es lo que ganaría Donald Trump con la misma acción de encubrir esta lista de Epstein? Solo hay que reflexionar un poco, comparar ambos casos y díganme ustedes, ¿quién tiene más razones para ocultar esta lista secreta? Y mientras lo piensan, ¿no? Vean un video que quizás los ayude un poco a conectar estos puntos. Interesante, ¿no, amigos? Espero que me dejen sus opiniones mientras seguimos con la siguiente noticia, porque toca darle un poco de cobertura, ¿no?, al tema de Texas. La respuesta del gobierno federal, señores, ante el tema de las inundaciones mortales, por cierto, en Texas. Hay algo, aparte de toda la tragedia, que ha puesto al descubierto una administración que parece jugar un reality show en lugar de gestionar una emergencia real. Quiero que desglosemos un fragmento que vi recientemente de una entrevista donde veremos al senador estatal de Texas, Roland Gutiérrez, el cual no solo critica esta gestión de Trump ante la crisis, sino que también lanza una denuncia contundente sobre cómo la política afectó la vida de cientos de personas. Veamos esto.
The search continues for at least 166 people still missing in central Texas more than a week after that area's deadliest flooding in more than a century. At least 129 are confirmed dead across 6 counties. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump visited hard-hit Kerr County on Friday, meeting with first responders and touring the flood-ravaged area. The president's visit to Texas comes amid growing questions over the future of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which he previously pledged to wind down, as well as his administration's response to the flooding.
It's easy to sit back and say, oh, what could have happened here or there, maybe we could have done something differently. This was a thing that has never happened before, and nobody's ever seen anything. I've never seen anything like this.
The New York Times reports 2 days after catastrophic floods roared through central Texas, the Federal Emergency Management Agency did not answer nearly 2/3 of calls to its disaster assistance line, according to documents reviewed by the Times. The lack of responsiveness happened because the agency had fired hundreds of contractors at call centers, according to a person briefed on the matter. Meanwhile, NBC News reports that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who oversees FEMA, has tightened her grip. Noem now requires that all agency spending costing more than $100,000 be personally approved by her. And CNN was first to report that Noem did not authorize FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams until Monday, more than 72 hours after the flooding began. And then there are the growing questions for local officials in Texas. FEMA records obtained by NBC's Dallas station showed Kerr County officials did not use FEMA's integrated public alert and warning system to send warnings to all mobile phones in the area as the flooding began on July 4th. There's a lot to unpack here, and joining us now, Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez and Deanne Criswell, who served as FEMA administrator in the Biden administration. Thank you both very much for being here. Senator, I would just love to get your reaction to President Trump dismissing questions over response to the flooding and attacking a reporter for raising questions posed by residents.
It's just shameful, quite frankly. I mean, you have a president here who fired 600 National Weather Service employees. 4 of those employees were directly responsible in this region, and they were doged weeks and months before. All of the alerts from the National Weather Service came late. And, different articles have showed, yes, they made alerts along the way. The most serious alerts were already far too late. The response post-flood has been woefully pathetic from FEMA. And it has been pathetic not because of the hardworking employees, but because this administration continually treats the agencies that publicly serve the people of this country like some sort of reality show, rather than understanding that this is the management of the resources of government. When you eliminate those resources of government, you're going to have reckless outcomes. And that is what's happened here. When you couple it with the state lack of resources, the fact is this state has a lot of resources, but Republicans have refused to do anything by way of emergency management or emergency alert systems. We had a Republican put up a bill this session that was killed by the lieutenant governor. The leaders of the state simply don't want to spend on rural Texas.
Dan, you were our last FEMA administrator. It seems that the DHS secretary has a rule that every contract and grant over $100,000 has to be personally approved by her. You obviously worked with the DHS secretary quite a bit. I'm curious if that's like too much. How much of those things are happening? Does this feel sustainable?
One of the key things that FEMA needs to be successful is agility. They have to be able to anticipate what the potential needs are going to be at a state. They need to be able to move resources quickly, even sometimes before a presidential declaration or before the state asks. You do need the declaration to employ them, right, to put them to work. But the agility, that speed is so important. And when you have added layers of approval, it slows that process down and it takes away the one key principle, that agility, that really can make a difference in helping these communities.
State Senator Gutierrez, I want to go back to the funding for the flood early warning systems. It wasn't that local officials and state officials hadn't tried to have some kind of flood early warning system. You know, there was great reporting in the Houston Chronicle just talking about how many different years since 2016, different studies, and they had pushed forward to the legislature trying to get some of the federal funding. But, you know, these requests were always rejected. You had mentioned that it was a lack of concern for rural Texas. Do you think that now, with the Texas legislature going into special session, this will be remedied and there will be a proper flood warning system put in this area of Texas?
Well, now the lieutenant governor has said that we're going to have a proper flood warning system. We should have had that years and years ago. The Texas legislature actually, through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, said that this county did not qualify for those particular grants through FEMA. Listen, we're not talking about 2025 technology. We're talking about 1920s technology. We're talking about these sirens are nothing but bullhorns, a little bit more advanced. I understand that, but we've been doing this for a long time across the United States. The water gauges, this community's asked for them from some time, and they haven't done them. Rural Texas simply doesn't have the kind of resources that they need to do this, but the state of Texas does. We sit on a $20 billion surplus that Republicans that hold the purse strings of this state have refused to allocate to rural Texans. I saw it through the tragedies of Uvalde. I saw radio systems that didn't work, towers that didn't work, technologies that were outdated. We need to do better. Certainly, this session is about that, this special session, but here's the problem. This governor has added redistricting to this mess just so that he can stack the deck for Donald Trump. And so it's going to be very difficult for us to do anything positive in light of that.
And we're going to get to that specific thing later on in this show and certainly tomorrow. But Deanne, one quick question for you. The AP is reporting this morning, it just came out, FEMA removed dozens of Camp Mystic buildings from 100-year flood map before expansion, records show. And I'm going to read this here. FEMA included the prestigious girls' summer camp in a special flood hazard area. That designation means an area is likely to be inundated during a 100-year flood, one severe enough that it only has a 1% chance of happening in any given year. Just your reaction to that, and given what we know now, was it a mistake to remove those buildings from that map?
You know, the flood maps are regulatory maps, and they don't predict future events. They really are a snapshot in time. And so I can't speak specifically as to what happened and why those buildings were removed. But it is about working with the community. FEMA doesn't do these maps on their own. They have to be part of the community. The community has to ask us to come in and look at them and update them. I think this is definitely something that will need to be looked at. And how do we improve the type of mapping that's out there so communities can understand what their future risk is going to be, not just this snapshot in time?
Senator, really quickly in the time that we have left, how is the community doing? How are people in Texas? I lived in Texas twice, in Fort Bliss and Fort Hood as a kid. I understand how close people are, even though they're spread out, and what they mean to each other. How is the state doing?
Well, it's difficult. I represent the counties just south of Kerr County, all the way to West Texas, including Uvalde. People are coming together and they're doing everything they can, but a lot of people are lacking still resources. I got a call from a funeral director who a family of 5 people that were lost is trying to find resources to pay for these funerals. And so far, nobody has stepped into that space. And so you've seen all of the calls to FEMA. You've seen all of the calls that have gone unanswered. It's really devastating. We're trying to help as best we can.
And good luck to all of you. Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez and former FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, thank you both so much.
Ok, amigos, luego de ver este clip, quiero que entendamos qué es lo que está diciendo este senador Gutiérrez. No se trata solo de una crítica política, ¿no? Se está refiriendo en sí a decisiones concretas que fueron tomadas por este gobierno de Trump. Y son decisiones que han tenido consecuencias reales y fatales. Primero, ¿no? Menciona el despido de 600 empleados en el Servicio Nacional de Meteorología. Obviamente no es un rumor, ¿no? Y tampoco es una exageración, es un hecho. Son 600 empleados que fueron retirados. ¿Cuál fue el resultado de esto? Las alertas llegaron tarde. Y no son cualquier alerta. Son avisos tempranos que podrían haber dado un tiempo a familias enteras para poder evacuar o prepararse. Además, Gutiérrez también apunta directamente a FEMA, ¿no? A la agencia encargada de la respuesta a desastres. Y, lógico, pues la califica como patética, ¿no? Lamentablemente patética. Créanme, señores, no exagera, porque hay reportes que tras las inundaciones, 2/3 de las llamadas a FEMA simplemente no fueron atendidas. ¿Por qué? Porque habían despedido a cientos de trabajadores de los call centers. ¿A ustedes les suena esto a una preparación ante emergencia? Para nada, ¿no? Improvisación, burocracia lenta y una falta de prioridad hacia comunidades vulnerables. Luego está este tema de las autorizaciones, ¿no? Porque, al parecer, si es que no lo sabían, la secretaria de Seguridad Nacional, Christy Noem, decidió personalmente aprobar todos los gastos mayores a $100,000. O sea que ahora, al parecer, una persona decide todo, ¿no? Sin delegar, mientras pueden haber ciudades bajo el agua, ella podría estar tardando, como dicen, hasta 3 días en aprobar esto. Ahora sé que algunos podrían decirme, pero que esto fue una tormenta histórica, ¿no? Inesperada. Ok, claro. Pero amigos, eso no es una excusa a la falta de infraestructura de alerta temprana, ¿no? Estamos en pleno siglo XXI, señores. En Texas, utilizando sirenas como en los años 20. Háganme el favor. Con un presupuesto estatal de miles de millones, ¿acaso no se invierte en tecnología de alerta para zonas rurales? Ahí es donde entra otro punto clave, ¿no? Que es el abandono sistemático de estas zonas rurales por parte tanto del gobierno estatal como federal, ¿no? Porque aquí el senador Gutiérrez tiene razón. Texas tiene un superávit millonario, pero no se traduce en seguridad para sus ciudadanos más alejados de las grandes ciudades. Entonces, ¿qué podemos no concluir luego de esto, de todo esto? Que es simple, señores, la respuesta del gobierno de Trump ante esta tragedia fue lenta. Ojalá en el futuro deje de ser así, ¿no? Fue mal coordinada y fue profundamente politizada. No fue solo una mala suerte o una tormenta muy fuerte histórica. Es el resultado de decisiones que priorizaron con la ideología que hay actualmente, con el control burocrático, y lo hicieron por encima de vidas humanas. Esa frase, ¿no? Tratan a las agencias gubernamentales como un reality show. No es casualidad, y sin duda estoy muy de acuerdo. Pues bueno, señores, ¿qué creen ustedes? ¿Creen que el gobierno tendría que tener protocolos estrictos, protocolos descentralizados, ¿no? Que no dependan de la aprobación de una persona para poder responder a desastres naturales? ¿Ustedes creen que el presidente siempre tiene que tener el control absoluto en estas situaciones? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, darle like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.